presented by Alpaca Peruvian Chicken. Evan Moesta here alongside Joel Bryant, Tyler Clark joining us as well here from Kenan Stadium. Welcome in to the campus of UNC. Day number 2 of the NCHSA Football State Championships. We had 2 really exciting games yesterday in 1A and 8A. 6A and 7A are set to kick off today. Watauga and Middle Creek in the 6A state championship is just under an hour away. Before we get into the 2 games that are going to be played today, Joel, I want to get your thoughts on the 2 games we had yesterday. That Wilson Prep game, a defensive slugfest where the Tigers reach into their back pocket and pull out the kicking unit, which they had not done all season. It pulls them to their first championship. And then in the 8A game, Huff did what they do best. Their defense shuts out Millbrook, and they take home their first state championship as well.
Yeah, I think, the most likely outcome in both games. It's going to be hard to match that first game with the rest of the 6 more games to go here. Just that finish that we had where he scored in the last 20 seconds with something he never done before all year. You can't really beat that, so it's going to be hard for these other games to live up to that. But Wilson Prep, like I said, kind of just how we said it was going to play out. They had so many penalties throughout the game. I think they were definitely the more talented team. Maybe without all the penalties, it would have been maybe a couple score game. But with all the penalties, it was right down to the wire like that. And then Huff, we kind of saw that one coming. We just didn't think Millbrook's offense had enough to hang with Huff. And Huff's offense wasn't exactly dominant against Millbrook's defense, but they made the big plays when they had to have them, just like that Myers Park game they brought up yesterday. And Millbrook's offense, they looked helpless. They couldn't complete many passes. The run game couldn't get going. There really just was no traction that they got. And it's unfortunate that, their issues can be fixed throughout the course of the year for this game. But, yeah, not many teams are going to beat that Huff team.
That's what makes state championships so magical. What happens in that Wilson Prep game, Tyler? You don't kick a field goal all season long, and your season.
He said for 3 years. They hadn't attempted a field goal in 3 years.
One,
yeah.
And then in the biggest play of their life, Coach Phil Dickens puts the field goal unit out there, and it sends them to their first state title. 2 teams take home their first state championship, though. This whole environment is so just magical, and it gives you moments like that. As somebody who is a player, Tyler, what does, being a part of a moment like this and being on a stage like this mean, and for these kids being able to play here, Kenan Stadium, and then have just these incredible experiences like this?
It shows a lot of maturity for guys, because you see sometimes they'll play too deep into the moment. It'll be a moment, and they'll try to be play superhero ball, and the winners obviously played their brand of football, and you saw on the scoreboard.
Let's get into today's games. Let's start first with the 6A matchup that is going to be kicking off in just over 45 minutes here at Kenan Stadium. It's the Watauga Pioneers against Middle Creek. Earlier today, a wintry mixed here at Kenan Stadium. This is probably a warm game for Watauga. As we look down there, almost everybody's warming up, no sleeves. You see the Middle Creek side, everybody's bundled up here.
Yeah.
What do you expect out of the Pioneers today?
Well, look, I think, if there is a game that can match the ending of the Wilson Prep Robbinsville game, it would be probably this one. I think these 2 teams are very evenly matched. What Coach Hobbick does with the Watauga is just so impressive. Every single year, guys graduate, new guys come in. It's the same production. In fact, this year's offense is even more productive than last year's offense, which was led by Max Green, the 4-year starter, and he was an incredible player. And then along comes Cade Keller, who was his backup. Cade is a star baseball, a star basketball player, and apparently he's a star football player as well. He's over 37 touchdowns and 3 interceptions this year. In his first year starting, that's incredible. They do so many things on offense that I think it's going to be really hard for Middle Creek to be fully prepared for this game. I'm sure they prepared for most of the things they do, but they literally run every formation known to man, and it's hard to prepare for that in a short week, especially when they couldn't practice on Monday. It's already going to be a short week going from Saturday to Friday. But I do think Middle Creek probably has the speed advantage in this one, so that's how it's going to be. That's going to be the thing there. So if they're prepared enough, I think the speed advantage could help them out. But if the preparation just wasn't enough this week, as it probably was hard to be, Watauga might have this one.
How much is a short week a factor in games, Tyler?
It's a really big factor, because the only thing you can't do is watch film, and film only does so much. When you have to actually see the moving pieces all over the place, it's hard to just look at film rather than see everything moving around at all times.
Especially all the misdirection that they do, and it's tough to get a handle on in game, I'm sure.
Right.
the Watauga defense, obviously this is a talented Middle Creek offense. They have a lot of different weapons. This Watauga defense has bent at moments in this postseason and kind of the latter half of the regular season, but they have not broken to this point. What's it going to take from the Pioneer defense to be able to hold up against Middle Creek? Obviously, they were on the ropes last week in a shootout against Northern Guilford.
Yeah, I think Watauga's going to have to lean on experience playing Ashe County, which just plays a lot. Ashe County runs a whole air raid attack. Middle Creek's not quite that, but they do throw it around a lot. It's going to be on those defensive backs to keep these receivers covered because Middle Creek's a lot of receivers. Honor Paxton, the big 6'4 receiver, Bacchiardi, incredible route runner, and Tracy Harrington Jr. is their leading receiver. So they have lots of options in that passing game. It's really just going to depend on how sound they are in their coverage.
Let's talk a little bit more about the Middle Creek Mustangs. Coach Andre Jacobs leading them to their first state championship appearance. What can we expect? Obviously, offensively, they like to throw it around, and they have a lot of dynamic pieces, a lot of athleticism on both sides of the ball.
So the surprising last week against Jacksonville, Lex Sevilla, the quarterback, he's more of a pocket passer, but last week against Jacksonville, they really used his legs. Some design stuff and some scramble stuff. I think he almost had 100 yards against Jacksonville, which no one saw coming. He went from like 240 yards in the season to now 340, and using his legs is surprising. I think it might be a factor today. But Jaden Spencer, the running back, very solid player. He's on the cusp of back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. So if they have a nice balance going, just to keep Watauga a little bit off, right, just not expecting every single pass, I think that could go to their benefit.
This Middle Creek defense, very athletic, a lot of size on the Middle Creek defensive side. I feel like they would have the advantage there in this game, but who are some of the guys that people can watch for today?
Tyler, tell us about Davis Pritchard.
Oh, man. You guys got me excited talking about the trenches. Pritchard is a baller. I mean, he's a big edge guy. He comes off the edge hard. He's got a plethora of moves to use off the edge. If Watauga's guys have not seen somebody like Pritchard.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how their tackles can handle him.
Yes, Davis Pritchard's going to Campbell. He has 20 sacks this year, which obviously is hard to do. And with Watauga passing the ball more this year than they had been, he's going to be a big factor.
This Middle Creek team is one, Joel, that in the preseason you felt like this could have been a breakout year for the Mustangs. Did you expect them to be playing here at Kenan Stadium right now?
This was one of the teams in the 6A East that could have done it. I think we all kind of got a little dissuaded by the results against Garner and Cardinal Gibbons. They lost those games kind of handily, but those were bigger schools than them.
And look how far they went in 7A.
Yes, and they went very far in 7A. But yeah, I think that you can argue that it might not be here today without those losses because it's hard to go down to Jacksonville and win in a regional final. Maybe those games against Garner and Cardinal Gibbons prepared them for that. But yeah, I think we saw this team. We saw potential on paper. That's why we had them our jamboree this year. But yeah, I think they've been building to this when Jacobs took over 4 years ago. I think it's been kind of building this moment. And this will be a big moment for Middle Creek if they can break through here because they've been so good for the past couple of decades, just haven't had that quintessential winning game. So you can tell that they're kind of ready for that.
Again, that's Middle Creek and Watauga in the 6A state championship. That kicks off in about 40 minutes here from Kenan Stadium. Then in prime time at 8 o'clock tonight, it's going to be Clayton. It's going to be Grimsley. This is one of the top matchups that we're going to have all weekend long. Joel, let's start with the defending state champion Whirlies. They've been unstoppable since the last 2 seasons, and they're riding another undefeated record into today's state championship.
Well, I think you start with the offense. I don't think there's a weakness on that offense. So they have a very good offensive line, started by a right tackle. Nick Cachibara is going to App State. Obviously, the 5-star quarterback, Faison Brand, speaks for himself. The question this year was kind of the running back spot, right? Mitchell Summers graduates, but then comes, the sophomore running back, Tyler Shoemake, who's a bigger player than Summers, a little bit different of a runner, but he's been productive with what they've given him, 16 touchdowns this year. The other running back, Michael Williams, has 14 touchdowns. So they're so balanced as well, and that's the thing. Faison Brand's receiving core all came back from last year. TJ Howerton, the Rutgers Smith, they don't really even throw at him. But remember last year, the 4A state championship game, they brought out that leak to Howerton against Rollsville. They had him in the end zone here for that big touchdown. So they could be, holding on to some Howerton stuff for this game. But the receivers, Caden Cato and company. Cato is the question for me. He did go down against Weddington last week in the first quarter, something with an ankle, I believe. If he is fine today, I think Grimsley's passing attack will be fine. But if he's a little bit hobbled or even not playing, then you have to be worried about that. But even in the case that happens, you still have to trust Faison Brandon in this game.
We don't advocate betting or lines or have any of that on HighSchoolOT, but it is a big game, and Hudson Cooper's playing.
Yeah, Hudson Cooper is Hudson Cooper. Just for whatever reason, he always shows up in these big games. He destroyed Rollsville both games last year against West Forsyth when they were kind of like on the ropes. He made a big play.
Had a touchdown in the West Charlotte game to open the year.
In the West Charlotte game to open the year.
He just shows up for these big games, man.
Well, and that's gonna be the thing. Grimsley can kind of lull defenses to sleep with their running game because they're so good at it. When teams lose their receivers into the secondary, like Hudson Cooper always finds a way to get lost back there. Faison's going to hit them every single time. This is not a quarterback that's going to miss those deep passes. Yeah. So you cannot let him sneak by you in the secondary because he'll make you pay every time. I am curious about Tyler's thoughts on this team. So this Grimsley team, just how balanced they are and everything, is it comparable to anything you saw when you were playing in high school, or is it just something completely unreal to you?
Grimsley's always had a good running game. Their offensive line's always been pretty big. I love their running attack. They run the zone and gap scheme really well, and I'm really excited to see it tonight.
Yeah.
Defensive side of the ball for Grimsley, obviously a lot of playmakers. No more Bryce Davis. He's now playing for the ACC champion Duke Blue Devils.
Yeah.
Now, he really affected this game last year in the 4A classification against Rollsville. It feels like if you're going to be able to bottle up an athlete like Clayton quarterback Aiden Smalls, it's going to take a lot from that Grimsley kind of front pressure, the defensive line there, but also they have some really good players in the secondary.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. This isn't Grimsley's best defensive line we've seen. That's probably the main difference with this year's defense. They have Andrew Rogers, of course, who came from Dudley High School. He has 8 sacks along Jaden Wardlaw, but they don't have those. Remember a few years ago, they had those big 300-pound guys. The whole front was like 300-pound guys.
John Jarrett and all them, yeah.
It's not that this year. So the running defense is just a tad bit more leaky than we have seen in the past. The linebackers are pretty good, though, but I do think they have to go back to front today. Their secondary is really strong. E.J. Davis is safety. He's a junior safety starting to get some FBS offers. He had 2 picks last week against Weddington. And then Kasi Barnes, he might be one of my favorite players in this state. Last year, Kasi Barnes, he's a 4-star South Carolina signee, by the way. He played almost on the outside, and he played really well in that Rollsville State Championship game. But this year, they kicked him inside. He's now their star position. And with that 6'3" frame in his arms and his coverage ability, he's causing a lot of problems from that star spot, kind of moving around in the nickel and elsewhere. He might be the key to stopping Aiden Smalls. If they're going to play him close to the line like that, going to play him in the slot like that, there's going to be a lot of chances where Aiden Smalls can be trying to scramble his way. So he might be the key.
Let's talk a little bit now about that Clayton team. Obviously, the conversation on offense does start with Smalls. He has had a phenomenal postseason run for the Comets. He had an epic performance in the regional final against Cardinal Gibbons. He is an NC State commit, and he's at the peak of his high school powers at the best time of his career. What can we expect out of him? And then he has some weapons on the outside that he's been able to find a lot over the last couple of weeks.
Well, I want to hear from Tyler because Tyler saw him the past couple of weeks. Just how, for anyone that hasn't seen Aiden Smalls, how has he been getting it done the last couple of weeks?
I've seen Aiden Smalls get to that edge, boy, and if he gets to the sideline, you could kiss him goodbye.
Yeah.
That Gibbons game, he was just unstoppable. He had 300-plus yards on the ground. He threw the ball pretty well, actually, last week, too. So it's going to be really hard for Grimsley's defense to stop him. But Smalls is a really good football player.
With this being the last game, how much of it do you see Chadwick pulling out all the QB run stuff that he has? Because, there's no games after this.
The playbook,
There's no games after this. If you can, even out the math problem there, offense to defense with blocking, do you think that could be a plan today?
I think it'll be a really big plan. I also believe that Aiden Smalls is a senior. This is his last ride. I believe he's told coach that he wants to do everything that they haven't done yet and more. So you'll see everything from this Clayton team.
Yeah.
On the defensive side of the ball, a lot of star power. Smalls has been playing in the secondary a little bit for Clayton. He had the game-sealing interception. After he threw the game-winning touchdown with 30 seconds left, he picked off Cardinal Gibbons' last chance prayer. So he can do it on both sides of the ball, but they have some really impressive players in the secondary, and then they have a Miami commit up front in Keyshawn Stansel.
And, Keyshawn Stansel, a lot of times we get these defensive tackles that are, they're like projects, right? Yeah. So they have the big body, they can, good measurables, but they don't really produce at the high school level because they're still figuring it out. Noah, your brother, is not one of those guys because Noah's very productive.
Yeah.
But Keyshawn's also one of those guys who's very productive. He leads the entire team in tackles, and that's hard to do from a defensive tackle spot. When you have, you're fending off guys every single play.
Speaks to his athleticism.
Yeah, and 26 tackles for a loss this year. What do you see from Keyshawn on film?
He's very disruptive. There's not a single play where I don't see him in frame at all. Mm-hmm. He's going to be a really big key tonight against a really good Grimsley team.
All right, we're winding down here. That's the 7A state championship again. That'll kick off at 8 o'clock here at Kenan Stadium. We'll have live blog updates and all of that from both games today. Before we get going here on the pregame show, let's make a couple of predictions. So far, Joel's 2 for 2 in his predictions yesterday with Wilson Prep and with Huff. Let's start with this 6A game. It could be a toss-up here between Watauga and Middle Creek.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be high scoring. We saw Watauga last week in the high scoring against Northern Guilford. Middle Creek has the ability to do that with them as well. I think I picked Watauga 34-31. I just feel like there's going to be some crazy scheme or play that Hobbick pulls out late that just fools Middle Creek because they just can't prepare for it. I do think it's going to be a very even matchup, though.
I also think it's interesting. Coach Ryan Hobbick, for those who don't know, used to be at Fuquay-Varina High School, who's Fuquay-Varina's rival. It was Middle Creek, and so finally he makes it here to a state championship. And who's opposite of him? It's Middle Creek.
Middle Creek didn't become Middle Creek until Hobbick left.
Right after that, yeah.
So
it opened the door.
It's like it makes sense with Hobbick, who's this incredible coach. He leaves, goes out to Boone, and then Middle Creek goes on its run in the 2010s where they go to all those regional finals. So it's kind of interesting that kind of a ghost from his past is here waiting for him when he finally breaks through.
Tyler, what do you expect out of this?
Whew. A lot of points, like Joel said. I'm gonna go and predict a 28-35 game. I'm gonna take Watauga, but it's gonna be really close, and it's gonna be decided, I believe, in the last drive.
Okay.
One of the things we kind of have talked about is like the athleticism here, and some things that you see in a state championship at times can be disparity between what region of the state people come from. These Middle Creek kids are having to play in the same conference with Cardinal Gibbons. They're just a couple miles up the road from a Garner. So yes, they're in the 6A classification by the amount of kids that attend their school, but they're pulling from a really talented and rich pool of athletic talent down in Wake County. I'm going to go in a very close one with the Mustangs. Here, I think Middle Creek, with their athleticism, maybe a little bit more depth than Watauga has. And in a close game, maybe that ends up being the differentiator. Let's move on to 7A now. Clayton and Grimsley. Joel, who do you have in this one?
You just can't pick against Grimsley. They're a top 15 team in the country, according to Max Preps and other rankings. Best team in the state for the past 2 years. Their offense doesn't have any flaws on the roster. Aiden's balls is going to be a problem, so I do think Clayton's going to score some in this game. Some of it might come late. I just see, if Cardinal Goon's putting up 30 on Clayton last week, I don't see why Grimsley couldn't do that this week. So I have Grimsley going 38-20 in the win column today.
I'm going to be a little biased. Clayton's got a central commit on the team.
River Fiore at tight end.
So I'm going to take Clayton. I'm going to take an Aiden Smalls masterclass.
Okay.
I'm going to take Clayton 28, Grimsley 21.
Okay. There's one thing I think we've learned over the last couple of years. It's you can't pick against Grimsley. They've always been ready for the moment. There may not be a coaching staff in the state that lives for moments like this more than Coach Dale Brown and the Worley staff. I think they're going to have no problem in this one. I do think Aiden Smalls is going to have his moments. Clayton's going to have some times that makes you question, like, oh, man, this is going to be a really good game, or what could the end be to this one? But I think over time there's just too much talent, too much good scheming there from the Grimsley coaching staff. I got the Worleys in this one. Anything else to add, Joel? Anything, Tyler?
I think it'd be fun if Grimsley pulled out a 2-quarterback set with Brody Lowe and
that would be
Faison
very
Brandon.
interesting.
Yeah. Send Faison Brandon out wide and have Brody Lowe throw a jump ball to him. I bet he can catch it.
Just confuse the Clayton defense there a little bit. HighSchoolOT will have coverage all day long. If you have not seen already, you can go see our recaps. We have photos, videos, stories, press conferences, all of that from the 1A and yesterday's 8A state championships. We will do the same today. If you want live updates, you can see that on HighSchoolOT.com. Joel will have a live blog running for both of these games. If you want to see where you can watch the game, schedule, parking information, ticket information, if you still want to come out here and catch some of these games, you can also find that on HighSchoolOT.com. And we will be live at the conclusion of both of these games to carry some press conferences. And Tyler and I will have a little bit of post-game analysis as well, along with some highlights. But for Evan Moesta, Joel Bryant, Tyler Clark, we'd like to thank you for tuning in here to the HighSchoolOT pregame show presented by Alpaca Peruvian Chicken. Visit one of Alpaca's 18 locations across North Carolina to experience their legendary flavor and their hometown pride. Visit alpacachicken.com to find the nearest location to you. You can also download the Alpaca Peruvian Chicken app and get a free entree when you sign up. You can also book some catering, some really good catering over at Alpaca Chicken. But for Evan Moesta, Joel Bryant, and Tyler Clark, we will see you with the postgame show. Best of luck to Watauga, Middle Creek, Clayton, and Grimsley. This has been the HighSchoolOT pregame show.